Everybody expects kids to rebel, right? I used to think that when kids became teenagers, they'd act like I did when I was a teenager. Obnoxious, rebellious, irrational, like a liberal, frankly. But last year, I visited a small church called Hope Baptist in Wake Forest, North Carolina, where I encountered a culture of teenagers who seemed genuinely disinterested in the rebellion that has become as American as apple pie, unfortunately. And it got me thinking. Now, I already know that the way we raise our children will determine whether we move forward into a future of freedom and prosperity or whether we continue our unfortunate descent into moral and fiscal collapse. So, I've been doing some studying, and I have finally found a book that every God-fearing parent should read. Who's the greatest dad in the Bible? Tough one, right? King David was a man after God's own heart, but as a father, epic fail. Absalom tried to kill him. Solomon ended up a pagan who lost the kingdom, was split in two. Abraham was a great guy, but he wasn't particularly commended for his parenting skills. Actually, the same goes for most of the patriarchs. Well, in his new book, The Promise of Jonadab, Building a Christian Family Legacy in a Time of Cultural Decline, author E. Ray Moore argues that the greatest dad in the Bible is an obscure character named Jonadab. Chances are you're unfamiliar with Jonadab, but he rode with my favorite Old Testament character, Jehu, who eradicated Baal worship in Israel in one bloody day. But Jonadab wasn't expressly commended by God for that. No, hundreds of years after Jonadab, after the fall of the northern kingdom, the prophet Jeremiah invited a group of Rechabites into the temple and offered them wine. Amazingly, they refused, saying that their forefather Jonadab had instructed them to abstain from wine, among other things, and so they had obeyed him for hundreds of years. Because of their generational obedience, God made a promise that, quote, Jonadab, son of Rechab, will never fail to have a descendant to serve me. No other person in Scripture ever received such a promise. Incredible, isn't it? That a father can instruct his children, and they and their children's children and their children's children's children will obey for hundreds, even thousands of years. So, you're probably wondering, what's the secret? How can I do it? Well, I can't explain that in 3 minutes. Just by the promise of Jonadab. The book covers Jonadab and cites modern examples of families that have observed their father's teachings for centuries. One of my favorite examples in the book is an Egyptian family that has kept their father's teachings tracing all the way back to the 1st century church. Wow. Listen, in an age where kids are expected to hate their parents, we need books like this more than ever. I bought one sugar-free latte and read the entire thing in one sitting. So if you want to be inspired to be a great parent, read this book. And read the poem at the end especially. It's written by Gail Moore, who just happens to be my 5th grade teacher. On the record!